So in this video, I thought I would go over my frugal hobbies. I had a lot of people ask me kind of like the hobbies that I do for fun that don't cost a lot of money. And I realized that I actually have a lot of low-cost hobbies that I really love. So I've put together a list of everything that I have done in the past year and the things that I'm currently doing to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do to make frugal living more fun and also to kind of enrich your life. When I think back to before I started cultivating healthy hobbies, I was definitely not as happy as I am now. I feel like having things that you look forward to doing and that kind of provide some stimulation and also like stress reduction, it's made a really big difference in my life. So let's get into it. Okay, the first one will come as no surprise, and it's learning a new language. There are so many different ways that you can go about learning a new language, but for me, I've always prioritized kind of like budget-friendly alternatives. So when I was living in Istanbul, I took Turkish lessons, and that was a little bit more expensive than I would usually do, but I really wanted to fast-track my Turkish learning because I was living in Istanbul. Now that I'm back in Montreal, I found a ton of kind of low-cost ways to improve my French, and I think this applies everywhere, not just to Quebec. Also, Ollie is very excited to be spending this video with me. But yeah, so the way that I'm going about learning French and also trying to keep my Turkish at kind of at least sort of the same level it was when I was in Istanbul, it's using Duolingo. So Duolingo is totally free. I mean, I think there's a paid version too, but I just use the free one. I also have a Preply tutor for French, and it's not free, but there's so many ways to make it less expensive. Like right now, I'm working with a French tutor who was born in France, but currently lives in Thailand and is just starting out her journey as a teacher. So she charges around $20 Canadian per lesson, and I spend about $80 a month doing that. But it depends on the language that you're interested in learning and also like the style of teaching that you like. So when I was looking for French tutors, they're as low as like $5 a lesson for people who are just starting out. Obviously, you're not going to be getting like a top tier. I mean, you could. Keep in mind, like all of the Preply tutors starting out, they'll put their rate lower so that they can start getting clients faster and building up their profile and their reviews. So if you're open to just working with newer tutors and maybe like understanding that their rate will increase, or having multiple different tutors just for conversation practice, and you can like continue looking for those who are just starting out, it's a pretty low cost way to practice your language skills. And the fact that it's one-on-one, I feel it's like very beneficial to improving quickly because you do have that one-on-one attention, even if it's just conversation practice. And then of course I also go to a language class full-time here in Montreal. I do the francisation lessons, which are free for Quebec residents. I don't know necessarily if every city offers stuff like that, but it's worth looking into. And finally, I did this in both Istanbul and here in Montreal. I go to language meetups, so there are tons of language exchanges, kind of like bar nights or whatever that you can find on Meetup or in community groups. Obviously, those are free, but usually they're in a bar or a cafe, so maybe factor in the cost of a coffee or a beer or something, but it's still a relatively cheap way to continue learning a language. The next one is painting and drawing. I loved painting and drawing when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite things to do. And then as an adult, I kind of let it drop off because while I love doing it, I'm not talented. But a couple of years ago, when I was working with a therapist and trying to heal my inner child, I started painting again just because I knew it was something that I loved doing as a kid. And even now, I find that if I'm stressed out or I just need something to calm my nervous system and relax, I really just love painting. The barrier to entry is super low. Like all you need is something to paint on and some paints. I use watercolors that I bought in Istanbul, but like the dollar stores here have like watercolors, acrylic, etc. And I just enjoy line drawing. Usually I'll just start by drawing something in pencil, and then I'll trace over it with a black ink pen, and then I will basically use it as a coloring book and paint it with my watercolors. Nothing ever comes out beautifully. Like, I've never hung anything on my wall, but just the act of doing that, it puts me into such a relaxed state, and I really love it, especially if I'm going through like a particularly stressful time. The next one, which also probably comes as no surprise if you've watched my other videos, but it's reading. I read a ton. I don't discriminate when it comes to the kind of books that I read. Like right now I'm reading this kind of satire on digital nomad life, and it's by an Italian author that was translated. But the book before that was just a beach read, and the one before that was an Elizabeth Gilbert book. So I don't know. I think you don't have to have like highbrow taste in reading, and you don't have to feel bad about beach reads. Like, if a book is entertaining and makes me feel something, then I feel like that is a win. And I get my books from the library. I haven't actually gotten a library card since coming back to Montreal because, I don't know, for some reason I find it a bit confusing. Like, the library by me charges $50 a year for a membership, which seems like not a library at that point. But I've been getting books at the thrift shop for like $2-3. I have a lot of friends who are big readers too, so we'll exchange books that way. I do feel like reading is probably the most frugal hobby that you can have, and also one of the most fulfilling. The next one is hiking and hot girl walking, which is basically just walking around the city, like trying to get 10,000 steps in. I love going for walks so much, and I also love hiking so much. Like, if I'm having a bad day and I just need to get out of my head, going for a long walk is one of the best ways to do it. Obviously, it's free. I do find walking in the city to be more tempting to spend money because there are businesses, everywhere. Like, there are cafes and stores you can pop into and all of these things. But when I'm going just for the intention of walking and kind of like observing the sights and the sounds of the city, I don't really feel tempted to pop into stores. Hiking is another one that I learned to love a couple of years ago when I started frugal living and also leading a more active lifestyle. So when I lived in Halifax, there was this beautiful trail on the Dartmouth side that I would walk on. Now that I'm in Montreal, I live really close to the base of the mountain. But it's like just far enough that the walk to get to the base of the mountain is kind of like a long walk. So I haven't been hiking to the top of the mountain as often as I would like, although since I started researching and reflecting for this video, I'm like, I should really just start doing that. Like, it's right there. Why am I not taking advantage of the mountain hike? It's such a beautiful hike. The next one is swimming. I love swimming so much. I've mentioned in other videos, I learned to swim when I was 31 at the community pool by my apartment. And it was such a fulfilling thing to do, like watching or like observing myself getting better and better as the lessons went on was so fulfilling. So I think this is really a two-part one of maybe learning something that you didn't think you'd be able to learn and watching yourself improve, and then also just swimming in general. There's a pool in my building and I swim from time to time. I really love it. It is often full of kids though, so I don't get down there as frequently as I could. I kind of feel like I need to plan it around the school schedule, but right now it's summer, so there are kids there pretty much all the time, and it's not that fun to swim laps when there are kids splashing around and like parents taking videos of them, but it still remains a good hobby that I'd like to get back into. And kind of along the same lines, another one of my frugal hobbies is going to the gym. I really enjoy going to the gym. I feel like if I miss it for a couple of days in a row, I really like feel it. It affects my mental health. So that kind of keeps me motivated. And lately I've also been wanting to kind of build more muscle. I feel like I have tried pretty passively. Like, I've built the habit of going to the gym, but I haven't stuck to a serious schedule to build muscle. I lost a lot of weight a couple of years ago and I was really disciplined that way, but I just never really had the same discipline for strength training. So for the month of August and moving forward, I'm going to really try to eat more protein and like do progressive overload at the gym, which is basically just like lifting heavier and heavier weight as you go until like you basically can't lift it anymore. It sounds really aggressive, but it's normal. But yeah, for me right now, going to the gym doesn't cost anything because I have a gym in my building. But I feel like even when I didn't have that option, I always was able to find like cheap-ish group fitness classes or like low cost gyms that are just no frills. Like they really just have bare bones stuff, but it's always enough to, you know, stay active. The next one is making YouTube videos. I started this 4 months ago as a hobby, and I still kind of treat it as a hobby, but a hobby that has started bringing in side income. So I've really enjoyed the whole process. I think anyone who has an inkling to start a YouTube channel should do it, especially if you're a creative person or you grew up in the era of kind of doing like video assignments for school. Like, I remember when I was in junior high and we would have to do group projects, it became really trendy to film and edit videos for the group project, which was so much fun. And this kind of feels like an extension of that playfulness. So even though I'm treating it as a quasi business, at the core of it, it's still a fun and free hobby. Like, I haven't invested that much into my YouTube channel financially. I did buy a camera, but I don't use it that often. Like, it's only for creative shots. Right now I'm filming on my iPhone, and then I have this mic which costs $60. But like I said, like, you don't need to spend anything at all to start making videos, and that's how I started. And then I kind of just like, I mean, it's still very low cost. This was a one-time purchase. My phone, obviously I already had it. So yeah, that's another one. The next one is indulging in cultural activities in the city. So I'm talking about like museums, art galleries, live performances. Here in Montreal, most museums have one free day out of the month. So I do try to go to those when they're free. And there's also, especially in the summertime, there are a lot of live performances that are free. So something that I'm doing next week with my friend Tisha is going to Shakespeare in the Park. It's donation based. And then there's also a lot of like cinemas in the park. And I know that is not a unique to Montreal thing. I know that that's everywhere. And they're usually pretty low cost too. Like, I think the ones in Montreal are free or less than $5 a ticket. And it's really fun to, I don't know, get outside and enjoy a movie not in a cinema. I also love going to the cinema. It's one of my favorite activities, but it's not frugal. Like, the cinema these days is pretty expensive. So another one that I love doing that I do every day is journaling and also writing for fun. If you've watched my other videos, you might know already that I'm a professional writer. So I don't write for fun as much as I would like to, but when I do get into that flow, it's one of my favorite things to do. So I've written like a handful of novels, like thriller novels that I've never attempted to publish because they were just kind of for fun to write. I also wrote a memoir, which I'm currently querying to agents. And I journal every day about the things that I'm grateful for or the things that are bothering me. I think journaling is a great hobby because not only is it basically free, like my notebook is from the dollar store, but it also lets you get kind of your thoughts down. And if you're somebody that carries a lot of thoughts or like you overthink often, I think just like getting them down on paper allows you to pull them out of your head and organize them. But I think writing for fun, like just letting yourself write fiction, if that's something that you're called to, gosh, it feels like being a kid sometimes. I don't know if it's because I'm a professional writer, so when I let myself just write for fun, it feels so different, but it really just feels like playing. when I'm, writing characters and writing scenes, not thinking that anyone will read it, just writing for myself and creating a world from inside my head. It's such a fun thing to me. I wish I was able to get into that flow more often, but because I write full time, sometimes finding the energy to just write more, even if it's for fun, it doesn't always come as easily. But when it does come, it is a great frugal hobby. The next one that I really love is puzzles and board games. I am such a big board game person. I wouldn't call myself a board game connoisseur or anything. Like, my favorite board games are Scrabble and Monopoly and stuff like that. I also love kind of like table games. So I love backgammon, just from, I think, living in Istanbul for so long. I got really into backgammon. And I also recently found, I think it's called Mancala or Manchala. It's the board that is just like a wooden board with little divots, and then you drop in these little gems, and it's a 2-player game, and the point is just to collect more gems than the other person. I'll insert a photo somewhere, but it's so much fun. It's such an easy game, and I really love just like having a drink with someone and pulling out a game. It's like you can still have a conversation, but I don't know, just like the act of playing a board game is so much fun to me, and it's kind of a one-time expense. And you can get so many board games at the thrift shop too. Like, I don't think I've ever spent more than $10 on a board game. And then also puzzles. I love doing puzzles so much. Unfortunately, I haven't done one in quite some time because I just don't have the space to dedicate, like the surface space. It's really hard with Ollie. I feel like if I set one up on my desk, it wouldn't just impede my workflow, but it would also be just like ripped apart by Ollie. But when I do have the space, like when I'm at my parents' house or when I was living with my boyfriend in Istanbul, we always had a puzzle on the go, and I just find it such a soothing thing to do, even just passively, like while you're chatting or while you're watching something on TV. I love it. And that's also something that is very easy to find at a thrift shop. And I also love word games online. So like things like Wordle. I was in a phase where I was doing the English, Turkish, and French Wordle every morning. And I don't know, I love stuff like that. Like just passive things that make your brain have to work a little bit. I find it very enjoyable, and it's free. And the last one, which might be the most expensive, at least for me, is baking. I love baking so much. I was making French madeleines for a while. If you've watched my videos, you know I was also making banana bread for a while. I find it such a soothing activity to do, and it feels really good after when something turns out and you have this sweet treat that you made yourself. The reason I say it's more expensive than the other hobbies is because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes my little baking creations don't turn out, and I hate when that happens because I feel like I've wasted the ingredients. It happens less and less as I've been baking more, but I still always feel a little nervous when I'm like putting a ton of maple syrup into something, or like putting cups and cups of brown sugar, and it's like, okay, if this doesn't turn out, I just wasted these cups of brown sugar. But yeah, I do enjoy baking. I think that even though the cost of the ingredients and like the margin of error for me can sometimes be high, it's still worth it, and it's still relatively frugal. So yeah, I will continue baking. So yeah, those are my frugal hobbies, the ones that I recommend anyways. I feel like I said, having hobbies, especially low-cost hobbies that feel like they are contributing something to your life, or like there's something that you work on and you're growing from, either like emotionally, or it's like a skill that you're working on. I think those are the best kind of hobbies to have. Maybe, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not. But I just feel like when you are able to work on something and you see the progress happening, or if you're doing something and you know it's good for your nervous system and like helps you stay kind of in a good space mentally, I think those are the two best kinds of hobbies. And obviously it helps when they're frugal hobbies as well. But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. And also, I've said this before, but this was a video that people requested, and if you have any more requests, let me know, because yeah, I like doing these request videos. They're fun and they get my brain working. Okay, bye.